planet holds a kind of parallel universe. A place of wonder where giants roam free. For thousands of years, we could only wonder about humpback whales. Now, by exploring their world, we're getting surprising glimpses into their lives. A 40-ton adult appears weightless in its ocean home. Though longer than a school bus, these 50-foot giants are nimble. With a wingspan greater than most Learjets, humpbacks are magnificent acrobats. Often seen in shallow waters, these mammals occasionally dive to a depth of 1,000 feet. Each bump on their heads contains a single stiff hair, which may help them sense their environment. Today we celebrate them, but it wasn't always so. Whales were hunted for hundreds of years and rendered into oil to light our cities. When whalers developed exploding harpoons, these giants had no chance. We nearly wiped humpback whales off the face of the planet. Then, during the Cold War, a US Navy observer recording the hum of Soviet submarines heard something mysterious. The otherworldly calls of humpback whales. Humpbacks string their songs together in a continuous river of sound, the music of the deep. In the 1970s, when these recordings were studied by scientists Roger Payne and Scott McVeigh, they recognized that the seemingly random noises were actually precise rhythmic patterns of sound, or songs. When record albums were released, the humpback songs changed millions of hearts. People from many nations joined together to support a ban on killing whales. The song of the humpback helped us to begin to understand, finally, that whales are magnificent, complex beings, worthy of protection, worthy of life. This was our turning point. The South Pacific. The humpback population here was hard hit by whaling. In Tonga, there were only about 50 mature females left. In 1978, when the King of Tonga banned the killing of whales, the humpbacks here slowly began to recover, one calf at a time. Today in Tonga, there are about 2,000 humpbacks, a fraction of what once was, but it's a start. The humpback resurgence has now sparked a whale-watching boom here. The increased tourism has raised the standard of living for the local people, like Ali Takau.
My grandfather was a whaler. He hunted humpbacks to feed our family.
Instead of killing humpbacks, Ali works hard to save them.
The future of our humpbacks depends on these children. I tell the kids about the whaling days, so we never have that kind of killing again. My job is taking tourists and scientists out to see the humpbacks.
Now these magnificent whales have begun to recover. Each calf is critical to Tonga's fragile resurgence. After a full year of pregnancy, mothers give birth to a single 14-foot baby. What's it like to be a newborn humpback, floating in a vast blue world, where your only landmark is a mountain of mother? Humpbacks share these idyllic waters with a whole community of marine life. The remora fish come along for the ride.
Even when the mother sleeps, the newborns don't stray far from mother's milk. But after a few weeks, the calves get bolder and they take off on their own. They're so curious and they've got so much energy. These newborns learn by copying their mothers. In their first year, they double in size. once they get the hang of it, there's no stopping them.
Each calf stays with its mother only about 1 year to learn about the world, how to migrate thousands of miles, what to eat and how to find it, who to trust and who to fear.
Whalers like my grandfather once targeted mothers and calves because they move so slowly. I always loved my grandfather, but he didn't understand the need to stop killing whales.
The killing stopped here in Tonga, but not everywhere. 3 nations, Japan, Norway, and Iceland, still allow commercial and scientific whaling. Today, fewer people kill whales on purpose, but we now kill them without even knowing it. When a ship collides with a whale, the impact is often fatal, and the number of ships on the world's oceans has doubled in the last 12 years. There is something we can do about these fatal collisions. One solution is to slow down ships or reroute them to avoid the migratory pathways of whales. Here in Tonga, mothers go for months with almost nothing to eat. To find food, the humpback whales in Tonga head south to the frigid, bountiful waters of Antarctica. Many humpbacks in the North Pacific Ocean migrate to Alaska. Dr. Fred Sharp has been studying the behaviors of humpback whales here for the past 25 summers. Most of the time, humpback whales in Alaska feed on krill. These small shrimp-like crustaceans thrive here, in waters enriched by upwelling currents and glacial nutrients. The tiny krill might be harder to catch if humpback whales had teeth, but they don't.
Instead of teeth, humpback whales have baleen. It's a kind of strainer that hangs from the roof of their mouth. It lets the water through, but allows them to trap these tasty morsels like the fish and the krill. When we're trying to locate big feeding pods, it's almost like you're coming home to family.
Fred has studied these particular whales for so long that he can often tell who's vocalizing just by listening.
We know who is who because each of these whales has a really distinctive tail fluke. They're kind of like a fingerprint. No two are exactly alike. So I run the prints. This is Melancholy. I've really come to know him over the past 20 years, from studying his behaviors and even sketching him. I often see Melancholy with another male, who we call Vulture. Many whales feed individually, but Melancholy and his crew have learned a really cool strategy. They can capture more fish by working together as a team. When we hear the feeding calls and see the whales grouped together, we know we're in for quite a show. What happens next is one of the most incredible and complex animal behaviors ever observed. It's called group bubble net feeding. The first step is always the synchronized dive. Some of the whales dive deep, underneath the school of herring, to drive them up towards the surface. With their long pectoral flippers, they can outmaneuver fast-moving prey. The bubble specialist blows a stream of bubbles, forming a spiraling wall of air that acts like a net to keep the fish from getting away. The designated vocalizer begins to make almost deafening sounds, scaring the fish up towards the surface. The humpback mouths expand so wide, they could swallow a small car. They can eat up to a ton of food in a single day. That's like 8,000 hamburgers.